Dr. Shannon PT with another episode of Need to Know in 5. Today we're going to be talking about foot development, and a question I get asked all the time is, does my baby really need shoes? Let's start off talking a little bit about foot development. Everybody's pretty aware that the foot starts going through a lot of transitions, especially when our babies are starting to use them for standing and walking. But in actuality, the foot is starting to make changes as early as when your baby is born. So if you think about it, when the baby is born, they're very tight, almost in a ball shape. And so even starting with the extension of the legs straightening, we're starting to get more of a neutral alignment of being straight versus the feet being turned in. So even early after birth, the body is starting to make these changes in the feet to line them up to be successful for when our children are starting to use them for standing and walking. In this picture, we have an image of a child's newborn foot. As you can see, it's a little bit more on the flat side and very little structure to it. In this picture here, we have a picture of a toddler foot, which has had a lot more exposure to different exercise and activity and standing and walking. So you can see how the structure is very different, a lot more strength and contour to the foot itself. So we think about that. First, the feet start to derotate and get in more of a straight or neutral alignment. Then the next things we look at is how the child is using their feet. During activities such as rolling, they might be using their toes and their foot to push down on the ground to help them to roll back and forth. They're also using the feet during their crawling phases of development, where again they're getting pressure and helping to get those little muscles stronger in their feet. Kneeling, also using the feet a lot to try and help do those transitions and start putting weight on one side versus another. So this is a great opportunity for the feet to really start getting more of a sense of what it's like to bear some of the body weight when they're in that kneeling position. When the baby's foot is in the beginning stages of development, it's often a little bit more mushy and a little bit more flat because the foot and the muscles haven't developed yet. So over time, as your baby is practicing these different gross motor skills, that's helping to get these muscles stronger and more formulated before the foot needs to start accepting weight when they're moving through kneeling and standing and walking positions. So as your child is going through all of these positions, your child is probably barefoot, and there's a reason for that, because it's that opportunity for them to get great sensory input, being able to feel the different floor surfaces, and to allow the foot to move in whatever pattern it needs to and not be restricted by having a shoe on. The same is true as when your child starts to participate in standing and walking skills. If you're indoors and there's no hazards on the floor, you're going to want to continue to allow your child to have that opportunity to be barefoot. So that way the foot gets the opportunity to feel that sensory feedback of the floor and allows the muscles to be able to respond as it needs to help with getting balance and stability of the foot when your little one is standing. So maybe the floor is a little cold, great alternative, socks with little grippers on it. You don't have to automatically go to a shoe. A sock is great, it'll provide that warmth and protection, has a little anti-slip bumps on the bottom for safety, but again will protect the child if you have colder floors or during some of those winter months. Now, the next thing that you want to look at is, okay, when you go outside, yes, you're probably going to need to start using shoes because you're going to want to protect your child's feet. You don't want them to tramp on anything sharp that is out there that maybe you don't see. So definitely when you start to transition to outdoor activities or maybe floor surfaces that are really, really rough that might cause any type of abrasion to the foot, that's when you're going to want to start looking into shoes. And when you start looking into those shoes, you're going to want to find something that is very similar to what we've already talked about. Almost like that feeling of having nothing on, or something that feels like a sock that's very loose fitting but is able to stay on the foot. We don't want any type of flip-flop. So you want a nice secure shoe that is lightweight, has a lot of space for the foot to continue to move around in this kind of natural mobility that it needs to as it's getting stronger and more coordinated with its growth. In this image here, you can see a picture of a shoe that is more flexible, that allows to actually usually have more of a bend to it. That's the kind of shoe that you want to look for when your child is transitioning and needing a shoe for outdoors. Versus a shoe in this picture is a little bit more rigid and doesn't have quite the bend. So it's not going to have the flexibility that your child needs. So that is my recommendation as to when you really need to start using shoes for your little one, and what are the best types of shoes that you should be seeking to put on your little one's feet to optimize their development of their foot during this amazing time. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Need to Know in 5.